So the rig is all together now, apart from the seat, obviously, which is a separate and optional accessory. So let's just quickly run through what we have here. We obviously haven't mounted the mount for our wheelbase yet either, because we're going to do that a little bit later on once we've got it down on the ground. But look, I mean, the assembly process was really straightforward. There were no major issues. There were a couple of little nitpicks and a couple of little things which I think they can improve on, which we'll run through in just a moment. But let's start off with the good things. In terms of measuring things and assembling, very, very simple because of these lines and everything that we have marked out. So we can kind of line things up and get things in a rough position to where we want them. Now, we are obviously going to move things around once we get our hardware mounted, pedals and everything. One of the concerns that I do have, and I'm sure that this isn't something that's an oversight, it's just something that we're going to have to do some adjustment around. It seems like the wheel deck is going to be very, very, very close to the seat, and there's not really a whole lot of scope of movement to move the seat any further back. You can imagine if the wheelbase is ending here, add that much for the wheel and you're going to be here. So we're going to have to move everything else forward. Obviously there are markings to sort of indicate that the wheel deck can go forward to about there. So that's obviously going to end up stipulating how we organize this. I'm guessing what we're probably going to end up doing is lifting this up, having those mounts further down and having them fixed up somewhere around here or something like that. But we'll figure all that out once we're up and running and we've got all of our other hardware mounted. But look, in terms of scratching and everything, like I said as well, we didn't have any problems with any of the parts scratching up the profile as we were moving things around. We did have included some little felt pads that we put in some areas where we were told to. So underneath the seat rails here, so as we loosen these off, we can slide the seat forward and back, and that's not going to scratch up the profile on the top there. There wasn't anything to go under the sides here, so we may end up seeing some scrapes on the side of the profile, but at least on the top, we're not going to have any problems. Yeah, look, otherwise very simple to assemble. It all seems to be nice and rigid as well. Everything's nice and thick where it needs to be, and really nothing problematic in regards to assembly whatsoever. Now, just a couple of little nitpicks that I did have. We went through the inventory here and everything that's supposed to be included in the kit. A couple of things we noticed in our particular box, the M8 regular T-nuts included in the box. So we did actually end up running out. We had to use some of the wide ones to mount this guy here. We were 10 short compared to what we should have had in the inventory. I'd like to see more than that included. Obviously, one of the advantages of an aluminium profile rig is that it's really easy to bolt stuff on. You don't want to have to be going and ordering extra T-nuts. They are a little bit difficult to get your hands on. It's not something you can just run down to a hardware store and buy. So yeah, I would like to see them include at least sort of 20 spare, I think. So that's one little improvement. Just in terms of end plates as well, this is one other nitpick that I did have putting it together. We had spares for the end pieces, which is great. Obviously, if they get damaged, they're going to be a difficult thing to replace. You'd have to call up Next Level Racing, not something that you can just buy off the counter elsewhere. There weren't any end plates included for these bottom parts here though. Now, I did check once again through the inventory just to make sure we weren't missing anything, but no, they don't include any end plates for here. Now, that is very, very sharp. If you were to trip over and kick that, remembering again that this is on the floor, so it is something that you could snag your foot on quite easily. That is enough that it could do you a pretty serious injury if you kicked your foot on it. So as you can see on here, it's not a problem. We've got a cover, and there were covers included for every other area where there's exposed profile, except for these bottom parts here. So both sides, that is definitely something I think they should include, because that is a safety risk in my opinion. I know I'm a bit soft, but you know, these are the kinds of things we need to call out. Look, otherwise, really, really easy. We've got cable management around the side here as well, so I'll just pop one of these out so you can see. We had a whole bag full of these, you can see there. So plenty of cable management, and these just simply slot in like so, nice and easy. One other thing I did notice, if I come around the front, this little included tool holder, quite rattly. So I can imagine if you have got this on a motion rig or even a strong wheelbase, you're probably not going to want to put your spannery, ratchety thing in there, because that's going to just drive you nuts rattling around. It's a cool idea, but yeah, it needs to be a bit more of a snug fit to really be practical, I think. Shifter mount is a little bit crammed the way we have it now. And because this piece isn't any longer, I can't really see any way to mitigate that. There is the option of having a mount along the side here, as I mentioned before though, which should alleviate that issue. So we'll experiment with that a little bit later on. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just a couple of other accessories to go over here as well. So these are the side mounting pieces for the Next Level Racing Motion Platform V3. So what you would do is you would take this whole assembly off, mount these on instead. These simply bolt onto the sides, then the motion platform screws into the side here, and it does include all the screws and bits and pieces that you need to do that. So that's a nice inclusion. And if you notice here, these holes along here, I wasn't sure exactly what they were for. Then I realized these are the exact same layout as the mounting points for the traction loss platform. So these bolts that are also included in the kit, what they do is they drop straight through there. That allows you to bolt this rig directly to the traction loss platform if you do own one of those. So that's nice that they have the provision to just mount that straight on. That's really handy should you have one of those. And you know, again, that's something that we might experiment with a little bit later on. We do have a Motion Platform V3 and the traction loss system on our main rig, so we may end up mounting this a little bit later on once we've done all the other testing. Now, one other accessory we mentioned earlier on when we were going through the box is the butt kicker mount. So you can see that mounted up underneath here on the seat rail. That's going to allow the maximum amount of vibration to come through to the seat, so we're not getting too much dampening.